Mao Mao is the single best reason why Apothecary Diaries is able to deliver such an impactful story to you, the viewer. But it's not just that the anime would crumble without her, it's more so that watching it becomes that more compelling because she is its main character. Mao Mao just has this ability to take any experience or thought process she has and shape it into these intriguing story beats that effortlessly carries the anime in its humor, drama, and mystery. This goes without saying that Mao Mao plays a vital role for Apothecary Diaries, but yet even as the main character she is never restrained to such a position. You could say she oversees the story, acting as the anime's narrator and heroine, which already gives her a lot of control in affecting the overall tone and pacing of the anime. So it's important that we, the audience, can find something to latch onto Mao Mao's character, which comes in the form of her charismatic personality. In other words, she also acts as the anime's comedian. Let me explain. Apothecary Diaries leans itself predominantly on drama and mystery, but humor still takes some shape or form in the story, which is integrated perfectly by Mao Mao. Her eccentric flair, her strange quirks, her cat-like charm, these traits build up her charisma with the audience, and you see this vividly in her job as an apothecary, as she's completely obsessed with medicinal herbs and poisons. Take for example, she sees a rare ingredient that she'd die to get her hands on. Mao Mao's eyes will not only start beaming like crazy, but cat ears will pop out of her head out of sheer excitement. Other times, if Mao Mao gets the chance to try some form of poison, she begins making questionable faces since she loves experimenting with them so much and discovering what their taste is. Everything in the world just kind of bores her except for being an apothecary, which makes Mao Mao feel that more genuine and memorable. But what truly sells the funniness of Mao Mao's character is her eccentric behavior that defies all norms, especially with how she interacts with other people in the anime such as Jinshi. If you've seen the anime, you'd know how utterly infatuated women become for a dashing, princely man like him. But when you put Mao Mao into the mix, she's genuinely revolted at the sight of his radiant handsomeness. So creeped out she'd rather keep her distance from him, which makes each moment they spend funnier than the last, as Jinshi constantly pokes his nose into what Mao Mao does throughout the series, while she just attempts to keep her head low. As we see more of Mao Mao's charismatic side, we become more captivated by how she behaves and thinks, making these comedic improv moments feel that more special. It's also important that Mao Mao's humorous quirks do not rob any dramatic tension that is built up as the story progresses, so the anime balances this out with her dominantly down-to-earth attitude and pragmatic approach towards her own life, towards people, and events that unfold within the anime's plot. Take one of the earliest events of the anime where we see Mao Mao get kidnapped and sold to the Imperial Palace, where she was forced to work as a maidservant. But although such an offense was committed against her own freedom, Mao Mao did not violently react to this. Instead, she just accepts her predicament as a fate that was bound to happen to a young girl like her who lived in the red light district. And knowing this, Mao Mao makes a habit of putting on makeup to mask her true appearance, so to keep a low profile and avoid any unwanted attention. She has such a realist view of the world around her, nonchalantly accepting that she holds no status to her name, leading her to constantly keep out of trouble and obey commands without ever hesitating, as a means for self-preservation. After all, Mao Mao knows better than anyone how expendable people can be if they don't serve their purpose. So, utilizing her knowledge as an apothecary, she helps people however she can. By instinct, Mao Mao will also observe her surroundings and the events that unfold within the Imperial grounds, never allowing any newfound info to fly over her head, so to be fully aware of any potential dangers that might harm the people around her as she watches over their safety. Mao Mao's character is a perfect combination between her two personas, the charismatic comedian and the intellectual realist. This dichotomy in her writing feels so harmonious, as if there's no difference to be split upon, which has easily increased my appreciation for a female protagonist like her. But although Mao Mao's personality is albeit pretty damn well written, what I believe to be very fascinating is how the anime actually uses her to deliver such an immersive approach to storytelling, as a sort of narrator if you will. Here's what I mean. When you take your first step into watching Apothecary Diaries, you will be met with a lot of dialogue and monologuing, specifically for two reasons. Firstly being to provide the audience with the necessary context for what's happening on screen, and secondly to create a story beat that can really hook you, the audience, in. But all that exposition can be such a huge detriment to the overall pacing of the anime if used too often or if it's just not interesting. But the anime has a trick up its sleeve which comes in the form of our beloved protagonist. Simply put, Mao Mao is the host of this anime and we trust her as a character. So regardless of how much monologuing she does, it feels casual, it feels reflective or dramatic and tense. It's as if Mao Mao's constantly aware of the viewer's presence and so she immerses you in every perceivable experience she has. Whether it's the world around her, the people she interacts with, or the mystery she attempts to unveil, we as the viewer become totally immersed in her thoughts and actions. And it's a subtle but powerful way to get the audience attached to whatever's happening on screen. And because Mao Mao has these eccentric quirks and an insane amount of intellect, there really is no getting bored by her talking, but rather we find something intriguing by anything her five senses can perceive. Hello dear viewer, if you made it to this very part of the video, let me just say I appreciate you. And if it's not a lot to ask, please like this video and subscribe for more anime content. Love you for that. Now back to Mao Mao's phenomenal character writing. But as the plot thickens, new events begin to unfold and Mao Mao's observations and thoughts play a bigger role in adding dramatic tension and mystery to the story. A great example of this was when Mao Mao discovered that a certain tea herb was being sold in the Imperial Palace, but the twist is that it can cause a miscarriage when consumed by someone pregnant. And coincidentally, Lady Gyokyo and her attendants purchased these herbs, but the catch is Lady Gyokyo was pregnant. So upon hearing this, Mao Mao warns everyone that the tea could have a dangerous effect on her child. But putting it all together, Mao Mao begins speculating, was this all a scheme to sabotage the royal consort's pregnancy? Could this merely just have been a coincidence? Or was it part of a bigger plan fueled by a malicious agenda? As the uncertainties deepen, the lines between conjecture and truth also begin to blur. And every new thought Mao Mao has opens up a new loop to get the viewer hooked onto the story. A curiosity loop, if you will. But ironically, narration can just take the form of her merely whipping up medicines, and that in itself is made interesting simply by how she explains it, the individual steps, the purpose of it, her intentions. It's all there just given to you. One moment you'll see Mao Mao solving some thought-provoking mystery, and in the next she's just monologuing on how she's taking care of a cat, yet it all sounds fascinating. They say show, don't tell, but I say why not have both? While the actions on screen unfold the drama, the words simply help peel back the layers to create something even more intriguing. But what adds a lot of depth to Mao Mao's character is how she acts as the heroine for Apothecary Diaries, although quite the unconventional one. Mao Mao is not your typical moral crusader who would selflessly help others at her own detriment. After all, she'd rather avoid getting into trouble, all the while reminding herself not to get too involved in someone else's problems. But the catch is, if the circumstances are just right, Mao Mao will never hesitate in going all out to save someone. A great example of this was when Mao Mao began to connect the dots on a possible assassination attempt that would end in Jinchi's death during his ceremony. Yet the twist was that it'll be framed as an accidental death, but due to Mao Mao's keen deduction, only she saw through this plot. So when the realization hit her, she ran as fast as she could to save him just before it was too late. Yet even if she was restricted from entering the ceremony, Mao Mao tried persuading the guard there, which only resulted in her getting struck down. But even if she was on the verge of losing her consciousness, Mao Mao still made it just in time to rescue Jinchi, since any second later could have resulted in his death. Now you have to understand, Mao Mao is not the type of person to do this. The Mao Mao we all know and love just minds her own business while she intellectually monologues about other people's circumstances, sometimes even wittily taking a dig at someone. Yet no matter how well you think you know her, her actions always reveal more dimensions to her character, and Mao Mao's morality is one of them. Yet her role as the anime's heroine doesn't just stop there, but it can also be seen in her competency and intellect as an apothecary. This is where you get to witness more of Mao Mao's compassionate side as she tries to save and protect people's lives using her knowledge as an apothecary, which may very well be interpreted as her sense of responsibility towards her job. But in my opinion, that's where her conscience and humanity truly shines as a character. One of the most notable examples of this was when Mao Mao was tasked by the emperor to cure Lady Li Fao of the sickness that befell her. During this time, Mao Mao had discovered the cause of her deteriorating health was a poisonous face powder used by one of Li Fao's servants on her, which infuriated Mao Mao, causing her to smack the attendant before dragging her across the room, all while chastising her for carelessly endangering Li Fao's life. Being a person who has always tried to help people, it disgusts Mao Mao to see someone ignorantly harming another person's life, which acts as a glimpse into her own conscience. Inevitably, she begins carefully treating Lady Li Fao to restore her health, but what really captivates me is that Mao Mao is not the heroine here simply because she's enacting her role as an apothecary, but because she is digging into her humanity to help Lady Li Fao realize that her desire to live is still intact, even after losing her child to the same substance that poisoned her, which took a toll on Li Fao mentally, causing her to prefer dying than to be nursed back to health. But Mao Mao, out of her own benevolence, guides her out of that grief. Later on though, this story comes full circle when Lady Li Fao gives a hairpin to Mao Mao as a way to express the respect and profound sense of gratitude she holds as a royal consort to a young apothecary such as her, which is one of the greatest honors that can be bestowed by someone of Li Fao's rank. And to us, the audience, is one of the coolest, most gratifying scenes you'll ever witness throughout the anime, thus proving why Mao Mao is the heroine of Apothecary Diaries in her own right. She is a female protagonist who is able to gracefully play all these important roles throughout the series, adding so much more comedy, tension, and emotion to the anime story, which just proves how special Mao Mao is as a main character. But that is just my perspective, so feel free to share what you think down below, and hey, if you enjoyed this little Mao Mao character analysis, please consider subscribing and giving this video a like, and I'll be sure to see all of you next time. Ciao!